Hey guys, welcome. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome to the channel if you're new. My name is EDJ, and I'm reacting to the fourth and final part of the Alexander the Great series by Epic History TV. I think in episode 2 I underestimated how much he could cover, but he covered a lot. And so far as I can tell, I don't obviously this could change in the next 16 minutes and 43 seconds, but I think he's just gonna cover Alexander's conquest of Persia. I don't know if he'll go all the way to his death or whatnot, but either way, I'm really looking forward to this. Let me take off my glasses. I wear glasses when I'm just lounging around, but my reaction videos I don't, because I don't know if the light gleams off of it and kind of obscures my eyes or whatnot. But either way, yeah, what can I just say other than I love this, and I'm probably gonna be binging a lot more Epic History on this channel, you know, and I'll probably be looking next at the World War One series and then Napoleon, and just seeing where we can go from there. So yeah, I don't really have much to say other than without any further. Oh wait, first, if you want to watch this original video without my face or my commentary, original video is down in the link. It's down in the description down below. There's a link to this video, and yeah, that's about it. Without any further ado, let's get right into it. Let's watch Alexander the Great Part 4 by Epic History TV.
At the age of just 22, Alexander, ruler of the small Greek kingdom of Macedonia, had led an invasion of the vast Persian Empire.
Holy crap, 1 year, man.
After a string of victories, he smashed Persian military power at the Battle of Gaugamela and took the Persian throne for himself. Now, in 330 BC, Alexander continued his march east. His goal, to find and kill Bessus, a Persian usurper claiming to be the rightful king, and to subjugate the empire's eastern provinces. Alexander headed first for Aria, today part of Afghanistan, where the Persian governor Satibarzanes had launched a revolt after initially pretending to submit to Alexander. The rebellion was crushed and Satibarzanes killed in single combat by a Greek cavalry officer. Nearby, Alexander founded the city of Alexandria Ariana.
I know Alexander named a bunch of places after himself. I think even one after his horse, which is just hilarious, but yeah, just Alex. Maybe it's good that he died young. Imagine he just conquered the rest of the world and named everything Alexandria.
Modern Herat, one of around a dozen cities that Alexander would eventually found, almost all bearing his name. Alexander marched on to Frada. The Macedonian court had a long tradition of plots and assassination. 6 years before, Alexander's own father, King Philip, had been murdered by his bodyguard. He was now informed that Philotas, commander of his companion cavalry, had uncovered a plot to assassinate Alexander, but kept it secret. Philotas and his father Parmenion were among the most respected of Alexander's commanders, and had played crucial roles in all his great victories. But when Philotas confessed, under torture, Alexander had him executed, then sent assassins back to Ecbatana, where Parmenion was governor, to kill him before he even heard of his son's death, and had a chance to turn against Alexander.
Wow.
In 329, Alexander resumed his pursuit of Bessus. En route, he founded the city of Alexandria Arachosia, modern Kandahar in southern Afghanistan. As he reached Kunduz, Bessus was betrayed by his own men and handed over in chains. Alexander sent him back to Persia for execution as a kingslayer. Alexander pushed on into modern Tajikistan, where the Sogdians rose up against him. He had to fight off attacks by local tribes and take several towns by assault. On the banks of the Jaxartes River, he founded the city of Alexandria Escate, meaning Alexandria the Furthest, so named because he had, at last, reached the limit of the Persian Empire.
Oh my goodness, this man.
This frontier was frequently raided by nomads, known to the Greeks as Scythians. Alexander lured them into a decisive battle near the Jaxartes. The result was a crushing victory for the Macedonian king that put an end to the raids. But fighting against Bactrian and Sogdian tribes continued, frustrating Alexander and tying him down in a difficult guerrilla war.
This is not a water bottle. It's an air-up bottle that flavors ordinary water.
Yeah, the thing is, Alexander obviously had so much more plans before he died to just keep conquering. Like, assuming that he lived to be, of an older age, maybe like, I don't know the average life expectancy around this time, but obviously 30 was really young, so I don't know. Either way, if he had lived older and kept going, eventually he probably would have had a really large land empire, maybe very large. I don't want to just say he would have conquered the whole world, I don't want to jump to that, but he probably could have conquered a lot more. But then, like, I remember, like, I was on a forum once, and I don't know, some people were kind of, like, just talking about, what if Alexander hadn't died? And, I think someone said that eventually, like, he would have to just kind of stop with the expansion and just focus on completely solidifying his power. He'd probably have to deal with a lot more revolts in older age, just putting down rebellions left and right, and essentially having to just, strengthen his hold on what he's conquered, and assuming that he lived older, which would probably be more. So, yeah, I feel like he probably would have to, there would have to be a point he'd just have to stop expanding, right? Like, and I kind of agree with that, and just focus on just holding on what he already has.
By now, many of the Macedonian troops were unhappy with Alexander. Most had not seen their homes in years, but their king seemed bent on conquest without end. What was worse, he'd begun to adopt the rituals and dress of their
Yes, so for those, so I know a lot about the mutiny, like, with Alexander's, things. I remember, like, he basically sent soldiers who were old or, like, wounded back home, and I think this was meant to essentially win the loyalty, like, hey, if you keep up, you can be like these guys, sent home once you're done. Though it actually ended up more offending the soldiers being sent away, because they thought Alexander was saying they were useless now, and that was one cause of contention. The next is, yeah, fatigue of just going around. Like, Alexander had a certain mania for running around conquering stuff, which, great for him, but not every one of his soldiers just wanted to keep fighting forever. So that there was a certain battle fatigue, or just tiredness of just going around. conquering. It was one thing with Persia, but Alexander just seemed like he just wanted to go everywhere, so they probably got annoyed. That was a big cause of it. Also, Alexander, yeah, was adopting, you know, customs. Like I think I remember he started dressing Persian at one point, and he also obviously welcomed former Persian soldiers and people into his army and teaching them customs, and that all of this just boiled into them at the, them having a mutiny, which Alexander gave the most epic guilt trip speech of all time, got his army back, and like, yeah, overall, like there was some contention with the new Persian soldiers and stuff being implemented into Alexander's forces. So that there's quite a bit of areas that led to contention.
Defeated Persian enemy, customs they viewed as effeminate and decadent. At Marakanda, modern Samarkand, after a furious, drunken argument, Alexander killed Clytus the Black. Clytus had been one of Alexander's best generals, and the man who'd saved his life at the Battle of the Granicus. Alexander was full of remorse, but his growing arrogance was alienating more and more old comrades. When he tried to make his countrymen perform the traditional Persian ritual of proskynesis, prostrating themselves before the king, he crossed a line. To Greeks, this was blasphemy. Only a god was worthy of such respect, and Alexander was forced to back down.
Alexander's like, but I am a god! No, I'm joking. But who knows, maybe he might have thought that, maybe. Who knows?
In Bactria, another plot to assassinate Alexander was uncovered. This time the ringleader was a royal page, one of the sons of Macedonian nobility who attended the king. Hermolaus had become murderously bitter towards Alexander over a perceived injustice. He and his accomplices were tortured and then stoned to death. Callisthenes, Alexander's official historian, was also implicated in the conspiracy. He was thrown in prison, where he later died. That summer, in 327, according to legend, Alexander became captivated by the beauty of Roxana, daughter of a Bactrian lord. Their marriage was also a sound political move, helping to end local revolt against his rule, and allowing him to continue his advance into modern Pakistan and India. Alexander now prepared to subdue the Persian Empire's most eastern provinces, which had yet to recognize his kingship. To do so, he would first have to cross the Hindu Kush mountains and reach the Indus River valley. Advancing in two columns, his army won a series of skirmishes against the Aspasi and Asakani as they fought their way into what's now the Swat Valley of northern Pakistan. After a fierce siege, Alexander took the Asakanian capital of Masaga. According to legend, it was ruled by a beautiful queen, Cleophas, who bore Alexander a son and was allowed to keep her throne. The ruler of Taxila, near modern Islamabad, had formed an alliance with Alexander. Together, they marched to face Porus,
yes,
king of...
Porus. Porus was from India, I believe, and like, he actually, I'm hoping this is the right guy. I'm not attributing this to the wrong king, but essentially, like, they fought and actually put up a great fight against Alexander. Like, Alexander almost legit lost, or like it was really close, neck and neck. And I think after the battle, Alexander had such great respect. He's like, "Hey, how do you want me to treat you?" And then like Porus said something like a king would to another, which was like Alexander found awesome as a response. I believe this is the same guy, but also I believe India at the time had an empire, a really like in terms of military, a very powerful empire with an army that dwarfed Alexander's. And since Alexander struggled with a minor king of India like Porus, he eventually wanted to go deeper into India, but when his troops had heard that the Empire of India, like since they struggled so much with a minor king like Porus, if they had gone into, the mainland of India and fought their army which dwarfed them, they just refused to fight that. Like, wait, let me pull it up here. Yeah, it's the Nanda Empire. I forgive me if I'm not saying that right, but the Nanda Empire was the big empire in India, and reportedly it had like an army in the number of the 200,000s. Like, it was reported to be big. I don't know how actually big it was, but it was so large that apparently Alexander's like army was like, nah, we're not gonna do that, because like I said, fighting King Porus, a minor king of India, was already difficult enough for them, and fighting his elephants were a difficult task. Like, if they had marched in and fought the actual big dogs, they may have actually lost. Alexander may have actually been, actually have lost. So either way, maybe it's a good thing his troops kind of dissuade him from conquering or attempting to go deeper into India. But yeah, that probably caused another rift between him and his soldiers.
Pauravas, at the Battle of the Hydaspes. It was Alexander's costliest battle, as Porus's war elephants inflicted terrible casualties amongst the Greeks. But despite Porus's fearless leadership, the battle ended in a decisive victory for Alexander, winning him control of the Punjab. Alexander wanted to push on into India, to reach the great river, which ancient Greek geographers said formed the edge of the world. But at the river Hyphasis, known today as the Bias, his army mutinied. His men had marched thousands of miles, fought countless battles, and not seen their homes in 8 years. They'd heard rumours of gigantic armies waiting for them in India. They refused to go any further.
Like I said, if the Nanda numbers, which I remember reading, were like 220,000 infantry, like maybe like thousands of war elephants, like if that is true, obviously this is the stuff that they would have heard. Like, if true, yeah, I don't blame the soldiers for not wanting to fight that. Like I said, one king of India already showed just how formidable of a force he was. Porus, like, fighting the rest of India might have actually really done a number. Even if Alexander won, he probably would have actually struggled a little bit more. So I don't know. I definitely kind of understand this one. Like, okay, Alexander, we're not gonna go further. I can kind of get this one, a lot.
Alexander was furious, but had to turn the army around. He followed the rivers of the Punjab to the sea, a journey that took 10 months. On the way, he defeated the Malians, but while leading the assault on their capital, was wounded in the chest and nearly killed. On reaching the coast, part of the army under Nearchus boarded ships and returned to Persia by sea, sailing through the Straits of Hormuz and entering the Persian Gulf. It was one of the great ancient voyages of exploration, as these waters had been previously unknown to Greeks. Meanwhile, Alexander led the rest of the army back by land through the Gedrosian Desert, today in southern Pakistan. But extreme heat and shortages of food and water led to terrible suffering and many deaths among his army. On his return to Persia, Alexander executed several of his viceroys and governors, men accused of ruling unjustly and robbing temples and tombs during his long absence in the east. At Susa, he arranged a magnificent mass marriage of Macedonian officers to 80 Persian noblewomen to strengthen bonds between his two kingdoms. Alexander himself married 2 Persian princesses. He also paid all his soldiers' debts and ordered 30,000 youths from across the empire to be trained in the Macedonian art of war.
A performance that truly matters.
But at Opis, his Macedonian troops mutinied.
Yeah, that's the famous mutiny I was
They
talking
were offended
about.
by Alexander's apparent preference for Persian advisors and Persian ways. Alexander had the ringleaders executed and made a speech to the men reminding them of the glories they'd won together, and leading eventually to an emotional reconciliation.
I love his speech because it's like the ultimate guilt trip speech that he talks about how awesome he is because how he made the Macedonians basically what they were, basically the next big empire of the world. And then I don't know, I love it. It comes across like like a disappointed parent talking to their kids, just so much guilt tripping, but also at the same time bragging. I don't know, but it worked. It was beyond effective. I love it. I love it.
At Ecbatana, Alexander's closest and most trusted friend, Hephaestion, died of fever. The king was grief-stricken, went days without eating, and ordered a period of public mourning across the empire. Alexander waged a successful campaign against the mountain raiders of Kossia, who not even the Persian kings had been able to subdue. Returning to Babylon, he was met by embassies from distant peoples, come to recognize his greatness. Ethiopians, Libyans, European Scythians, Lucanians, Etruscans, Gauls, and Iberians. Alexander's Bactrian wife, Roxana, was now pregnant. But as he planned his next campaign to Arabia and beyond, he developed a sudden fever and died days later, aged just 32.
Yeah, that's oh man, dude. Who knows what he could have done if he had lived longer. I'm actually really happy he basically covered everything. I was afraid he was just gonna only cover the Persian conquest, but he's literally got everything down. Thank you, Epic History TV. But yeah, Alexander's death at such a young age is the ultimate what if. What if he kept going? What if, And man, there's just so much. It's so tragic, but in a weird way, kind of when these great figures die young, it almost immortalizes them more in a way. maybe he could have done so much more, yeah, but who knows, maybe he could have had some failure, or like, you know, if he had lived longer, like, you know what I mean, right? Like, almost like, I guess it did a lot for his legacy to go young, but who knows? I don't know. It's kind of like the Aurelian situation with Rome. It's like almost it just puts them up in an even higher level because they go at their peak, right? Like you see Alexander at the peak, and then he just disappears. You don't see a decrease or a decline with him like you do with other long-lasting leaders. I don't know.
The cause of Alexander's death has never been established. It may have been malaria, cholera, typhus, or poison.
Oh boy, the successors, yeah, just everything falls apart because upon his death, like the famous story is that when they asked, "Hey, who's gonna be your successor?" he was like, "To the strongest." I don't know why. I imagine he was just so petty and bitter about dying. He just said that because he probably figured they would all fight for it. So I don't know. If so, petty, but yeah, I could understand his anger towards death itself.
Alexander died undefeated in battle. His reputation as a brilliant, fearless and daring military commander remains undimmed. His decade-long campaign created one of the largest empires ever known, stretching from Greece to Pakistan. But it was vast and unstable, held together only by his own brilliance and name.
Yeah, like I said, Alexander probably didn't live long enough to consolidate more like power and firmly establish what he already had. I mean, he was still in the process of conquering, so obviously when he went, it was beyond unstable, and you can see also just not having an heir already, just complete breaking after his death, you know?
Alexander left no plans for his succession, and his generals soon began fighting among themselves to carve out their own empires.
Ptolemy. I know Ptolemy because Cleopatra is actually descended from, Ptolemy. She was descended from, a general or, guy under Alexander the Great. So, yeah, that's where the Greek, Egyptian, Cleopatra line comes from, which just shows just how influential Alexander the Great was for history.
In the Wars of the Successors, Alexander's widow Roxana and his young son were murdered. His own gold sarcophagus, en route to Macedonia for burial, was hijacked and ended up in Alexandria in Egypt. Today, its location remains one of the world's great unsolved mysteries. Few men have ever had such an impact on the course of history as Alexander the Great.
It's true.
The breathtaking achievements of his short life ushered in the Hellenistic Age, as Greek ideas spread across the territory of his former empire, fusing with local traditions to trigger new developments in art, science, government and language. Some of the successor kingdoms to his great empire were short-lived. Others endured for centuries. But all, in turn, would fall to new forces.
Like Rome.
And in the West, to the rising power of Rome.
Hey, if you're interested in my Rome Dova Hadi series, check it out. Yeah, we covered a lot of Rome on this channel. Like, we're with that.
Research and artwork for this video
that's
come
essentially it. So this video was fun. I love this series. I literally binged part 2 all the way to here, all in one go. So this was fun. I really enjoyed this series, guys. I loved it, and I'm gonna be looking at a lot more Epic History TV. I'm so happy to have learned a lot. Well, I kind of already, like I said, knew a lot about Alexander the Great, but it was nice to refresh and learn some new things. So overall, I really love this series, and thank you for anyone who recommended Epic History TV to me. And I will be seeing you next time. And I'm going to cover the World War I series next. So, thank you all. I'll see you all next time.